When a crisis breaks out, the question everyone hears is simple. Where's the nearest carrier? But that question misses the point because a carrier doesn't fight alone, and power doesn't begin with the order to strike. Before aircraft launch, before weapons are armed, before a decision is ever made, there's a quieter fight already underway. Information is moving, signals are shifting, patterns are forming. Today we're going inside that fight, inside the intelligence system that turns a carrier strike group from steel and aviation fuel into a thinking, adaptive weapon. Welcome to Threat and Theory, where intelligence meets insight. Hosted by a veteran of the U.S. intelligence community, we cut past the headlines to show you the world as it actually unfolds. A place where threats are examined before they're obvious, and theory is used to understand what pressure, power, and intent are really doing beneath the surface. Every episode breaks down complex geopolitics, tradecraft, hidden dynamics, emerging technologies, and the human element behind global events. It's like learning chess for the geopolitical world of today. Discover how intelligence actually shapes the world, not through secrets, but through clarity. You're listening to Threat and Theory. Let's begin. So Howard, where's the nearest carrier?
Great question, but not the most precise one. The most precise question is, where is the carrier strike group? Because a carrier never fights alone. And just a quick note for listeners, depending on when you're hearing this, a carrier strike group may be preparing for operations, actively conducting the operations, or might have already conducted the operations. And with that, we're referring to the Middle East right now.
So what is the difference between a carrier and a carrier strike group?
A carrier strike group fights as a system. The carrier is the centerpiece, but it's nothing without the air wing, the destroyer squadron, and often submarines operating in concert with it. It also, coordinating all these units, it's the flagship for the flagstaff. It usually led by a 1 or 2 star admiral, and the flagstaff is embarked on the carrier, coordinating the air wing, the Desron or destroyer squadron, and of course the aircraft carrier.
Is the air wing on an aircraft carrier, is that a Navy asset, or is that a part of a joint operation with the Air Force?
Naval aviation. Usually about 8 squadrons, all reporting to the air wing commander, who's co-equal to the aircraft carrier commanding officer. And both of these captains report directly up to the flag admiral, to the admiral. So it's an important job that air wing commander has.
Yeah. Are there any joint operations that ever happen between naval aviators then and the Air Force?
Absolutely. In fact, we work very closely. We exercise. We train closely with the Air Force. The Air Force is great, particularly when we fly over countries like Afghanistan. Usually, they do a lot of the controlling, tanking. That we do a lot of the long-range assets, and we do strike packages with them as well. Although typically on a single sortie type of strike package, it's divided by service, but at the operational level, it'll be the Navy and the Air Force.
So before we go any further, we should probably slow this down. Most people listening have probably never been on an aircraft carrier, let alone a CVIC. So let's start from zero. What is a CVIC? CIVIC.
CVIC, yeah. And carrier. Let me break that down. The way that Navy terminology stands is, you hear a Navy is typically a Navy carrier is CVN, nuclear powered carrier. The way it was before there was nuclear power was CV, which was cruiser, and then the V stood for basically fixed wing aircraft. But now it's just CV or CVN. We didn't put the CVN into CVIC, and then Intel Center is IC.
Okay.
So it's CVIC. We never added it just doesn't sound right going CIVNIC. So CIVIC, it sounds kind of rolls off your tongue. And so CIVIC is Carrier Intel Center. And that's basically where the Intel geeks hang out. Intel is, and it's several work centers, and there's also a couple of Intel spaces that are outside of CVIC, but we'll talk about them as well. And those would be SES, or Ship Signal Exploitation Space, and Subplot, both very integral to the intelligence operations on the ship. Subplot is supplementary plot, but within CVIC itself, it's kind of where Intel does its job. And CVIC exists for two reasons: to support planning, support strike planning and execution, and to support the carrier and its strike group. So protect mother, as they call it, which is the ship, and to, of course, project power ashore and on sea.
So when people hear CIVIC, what are they actually talking about?
It's again, it's not a command center.
Mm-hmm.
It's where the information comes, it's processed, it's analyzed, and it goes out. So when they're talking about it, it's imagery and analysis, which is often handled by MSI, or multi-sensor interpretation. Imagery can come in one of three forms. There's electro-optic imagery, there's infrared imagery, and then there's radar imagery. And infrared imagery is heat signatures, kind of like what you see with your IR glasses at night.
Yep.
Except for it's can be taken from either a helicopter or a satellite or whatever. And then there's the radar imagery is interesting because it kind of comes out. We call it blobology, and it's basically just a bunch of. It looks to the untrained eye like a bunch of squiggles on a piece on a screen. To a trained imagery interpreter, it's clear as day.
Yeah.
And that's why they're so good at what they do. And they do it through measurements and so on. It's basically a radar signal sent from outer space. It bounces off of something and comes back, and they're able to tell us what it is. Mm-hmm. And that's really cool. Now, targeted mission planning. This is one of the coolest things that happens in CVIC. So the targeteers, when we're talking about 19, 20-year-old people here, they have one of the most important jobs in CVIC and in CIVIC. You see, smart weapons are only as smart as the people doing the targeting. And that's a challenge because the world is not round. Galileo was wrong. You see, it's got hills and valleys, mm-hmm. and so on, and weapons do not drop straight down. So when we're going to shoot a smart weapon at something, let's say we want to hit somebody in the third story of a building somewhere in downtown, I don't know, Tehran. Let's use that. Mm-hmm. First of all, what's the elevation of Tehran above sea level?
Sure.
We need to know that, and not only Tehran, but that particular block of that particular building. Mm-hmm. So the first thing we need to do is find that building on an image, fix that image precisely on a map or a chart, right? Mm-hmm. Because you can't be the next block over because that might be a different elevation mm-hmm. than where that building is, mm-hmm. right? Okay. And then we need to say, okay, precisely that's the elevation of where that building is. Mm-hmm. And then count up those 3 stories, precisely how high is that window up from that.
Yeah.
Because that weapon is going to go on that glide slope. And by the way, what's around that building? Mm-hmm. Is there a mosque behind it? Because we don't want to hit that mosque with the shrapnel from the building. Or is there an orphanage over here? So we need to know what's the projected blast of where, because maybe it's better to hit it from this direction so that the blast hits this way.
What about the tides? Does the height of the tide being a high or low tide affect
Well, we call it
something
mean
like that?
mean sea level.
Okay.
But then the other consideration is what's the building made out of? Because if it's made out of balsa wood, you don't want to use a penetrating warhead, right? Because it'll just fly through that and hit the kids in the swing set out back.
Sure.
But if it's a reinforced concrete, then you don't want to use a conventional warhead because then it's just going to bounce off and do nothing. So all this stuff happens in our targeting shop, and these are sometimes kids a year or two out of high school, or a year and a half earlier, we're wondering who's going to go to the prom with them, and that's pretty amazing that we train them that well.
Yeah.
Then we have the briefing and debriefing. This is usually done by the Air Wing intel officers. Each squadron typically has an intelligence officer with them, and the briefers get the pilots and the air crew ready to conduct their mission. Provide the what they call the card of the day, which includes radio frequencies and so on, as well as the intelligence updates and so on. And then they come back. They debrief either in person or some of the newer carriers. They can do it directly from the ready room and talk about what they saw. If they have any film or forward-looking infrared footage, they download it. They look at it together. Say, this is what I saw. Maybe whether it was at sea or ashore, and they can look at it. If they have any gun footage, that type of thing. If there's any initial battle damage assessment, they can look at that and process it and feed that back into the system. And then, of course, you have your and then you have your mission planning space, and that's just a big room where everybody gets together on these big map tables and starts planning and getting with the computers, and a big work area.
Okay.
And then, of course, outside of CVIC, you have your ship signals exploitation space. That's behind the green door we can't talk about. That's the area where they do signals intelligence, SCI level stuff. And then what we call the supplementary plot. Supplementary plot is our all-source fusion center, where we take that signals intelligence, we take that imagery intelligence, we take all the intelligence, 24-hour watch floor, and we were basically protecting the strike group. We're feeding it to the decision makers, and we're feeding it to the tactical action officer and combat detection center, and to the captain, and to the flag plot, and making sure everybody is aware of any threats that might be coming towards us, or of anybody that might threaten our strike packages as we go in.
So people that work in all of these different areas, I mean, an aircraft carrier has multiple floors, I assume, right? Kind of like a
17 decks from keel to the top of the ship.
If I work on deck 6, and deck 6 is for briefing and debriefing, do we all live on deck 2, or do I live on deck 6 and I never even leave deck 6?
Well, everything in the intel world is on at least on a Nimitz class carrier, is what we call the O3 level.
Okay.
And that's so we're all all in the same neighborhood.
But you end up sleeping in that area. You're not that the guys running the air wing on the top deck aren't sleeping all the way down on the same level as we are on deck 3.
No, you're kind of spread all over the place
Okay.
where you sleep. Depends on. You get your exercise.
Yeah. Okay.
Aircraft carriers are big objects.
Yeah.
But yet
There's
they're
one
very
cafeteria,
crowded.
so we got to at least go up there. Is there every deck's got its own cafeteria? What's it actually like what's it feel like to live on one of these things?
First of all, it's real easy to get lost if you don't know where you're going. I think they all have addresses. Every space has an address. But if you don't know how to get around those addresses, it's real easy to get lost. And these passageways end at peculiar places, and then they start mopping them and closing them down, and you're absolutely screwed. So you have to know your way around, and that takes a couple weeks. But it's typically you're going to get your exercise just walking up the ladder wells and down the ladder wells, and just walking up to the bridge. And one of the things that our enlisted guys do is what they call Snoopy team, and that is they call away Snoopy team if they have an unidentified visual contact that the signalman at the bridge see, or that the bridge sees that they want to identify. And so they grab a camera and they call away the Snoopy team, and these guys run up to the signal bridge as fast as they possibly can. And that's from the 03 level to, the 010 level. So seven ladders up. And those guys are pretty winded by the time they're like younger than I am now. Let's put it that way. And by the time they get up there, there's they got to be in shape to do that. And they get up there and they take their pictures, and then they run down and press, and they figure out what it is and get their information to the captain. Hopefully, it's not another destroyer that we didn't see coming in.
Yeah.
And
So when people hear CVIC or CVIC, they picture a room full of screens.
Yeah, you could think of that, and the way I described it certainly sounded like a bunch of different work centers, but it's really not. In fact, one of the secrets of a really good CVIC is to overcome those bulkheads or those different rooms. A really high-functioning CVIC is you have MSI talking to the targeteers, and you have everybody talking to each other, so that it becomes a single organism where everybody's talking to everybody else, and it circulates to the right people in a coherent format at the right time. It's all about sharing that information. What do I know? What do I think? Who else needs to know it, and have I told them?
How does that actually work in practice then?
We practice it from day one. We really practice it from day one. When people go through intel training at Dam Neck, Virginia, they learn their specific skills. But then they also have team training. And when I was the ship's intel officer on USS Theodore Roosevelt, we worked with the Air Wing, and we worked with the flag staff and my counterpart, the N2. And the N2 is really the guy who runs the operations of the CSG when we're at sea. And we worked so hard on that communication, and we got it down pretty good. I think we were among the best in the fleet at that.
So we've talked a lot about the different types of rooms and the different types of monitoring that happen. Can you give me an overview on imagery?
Sure. So imagery, again, it's this is where it used to take weeks for us to get an image from shore. Now it takes us seconds, and what it does is images come in from the satellites. They bounce to a relay station, then bounce to another relay station, then bounce up back to us, and all that happens in like that.
Yeah.
And so what our imagery analysts are doing is they get a big chunk of images. They find out what it is that we require. They take that image, they look at what it is that we need to know for our requirements, and they read it out, and they say, okay, this is this port facility, this is what we see there, this is what was there yesterday. They pass that information to subplot, or maybe the targeteers, or whoever needs to know it. And, it's as simple as that. If they need to pass the image itself, they do that. If they just need to pass the information, they do that. And it's really about getting that information out as quickly as possible and getting it done right.
So you mentioned that the technology's advanced so much. Something that used to take you days or weeks now takes you seconds. When did we start having aircraft carriers?
Oh gosh, aircraft carriers really was 19. I want to say 19. 12, maybe. It was the USS Langley. Was our first aircraft carrier,
Mm-hmm.
and it was really a converted cruiser. That's why it's a CV.
Gotcha.
It was a converted cruiser, and it was really a biplane flying off of a cruiser.
Yeah. So, but they actually were flying a plane off. I mean, I guess it's always been the concept of an aircraft carrier. 1912 was the first time they figured out we can.
Maybe 1914. It was somewhere in that
But we
area.
can take off and land a plane on off of a boat.
Yeah.
And that was the invention or the advent of an aircraft carrier.
That really was, and it wasn't really until World War II that they became de facto the weapon of choice, and the reason they became that was because our battleships were all sunk in Pearl Harbor.
Gotcha.
We were a battleship navy going into Pearl Harbor, and that was considered to be the primary, weapon of the U.S. Navy. Is going to be the backbone of the U.S. Navy. All of our battleships were sunk, and so we started fighting using our carriers. And in fact, it made sense because our carriers have much longer range. The Battle of the Coral Sea was the first, battle fought between two navies that never saw each other, or the ships never saw each other. And it was us against the Japanese.
Very cool. So let's talk about smart weapons. People talk about smart weapons or hear about smart weapons and they make assumptions. What education can you give us here?
So smart weapons really are kind of a new advent. When we fought in Iraq in 1991, I guess it was, I think maybe 10 or 15% of our weapons that we dropped, or the ordnance that we dropped, were smart weapons. Everything else is just what they call dumb bombs, inert bombs, gravity bombs. Now, I'd say 90%, if not more, of what we drop are smart weapons. They're either guided by laser guided, either from the cockpit or from a ground observer, aiming for that laser point, or GPS guided. You pick a point on the map and it flies to it. It can be done. Tomahawk land attack missiles are obviously a smart weapon, but there's also dropped ordnance from aircraft. Even mortar rounds can be smart weapons. Now, you find a GPS guided mortar these days. It's incredible how far we've come with smart weapons.
Mm-hmm. And so where does the air wing fit into all this?
So the air wing is our weapon system on an aircraft carrier. It's the only real offensive weapon system that an aircraft carrier has. Without that, we have a couple minor defensive weapon systems, but we really rely on cruisers to provide our area air defense for an aircraft carrier. But the air wing is our whoop ass.
Yeah.
And it's the F-18s, the F-35s fly out. Depending on tanking, they can fly up to several hundred miles away, dropping smart weapons, and they're badass.
Yeah.
What we're flying with now, especially those F-35s.
Mm-hmm. And so what happens after the mission?
So they come back. The amazing thing about an aircraft carrier is we can launch and recover aircraft. We can launch one aircraft per minute. And, and it's really that quickly. And then we recover them all and get them back down and start it all again. We can do it almost around the clock. And then we get back and we get the pilots their rest or first debrief them, then they get their rest and get ready for the next one, start planning the next one.
And so what can you tell me about signals intelligence?
Very little, quite honestly. I can tell you that it consists of two types. One is electronic intelligence, which is radars and the such. And the other is communications intelligence. And I can tell you that we do both.
Yeah.
But beyond that, the classification is too high. I'm not going to
You're not going to jeopardize?
I'm not going to. Not going to jeopardize classification. We classify things for a reason.
Okay, so let's talk about where it all comes together in the subplot.
Yeah, subplot is really, a really cool place. It's truly a watch center. I got the opportunity to be a subplot watch officer when I was a young lieutenant, junior grade, on the USS Carl Vinson, and that's you have a young lieutenant or lieutenant junior grade there. Usually, it's a great opportunity, and then you have a couple enlisted folks with you, and your job is essentially to take the feed from SES, which is your signals intelligence. You take some national feeds. You have a lot of systems coming in from other areas, NSA or whatever. You have your MSI, your imagery feeds coming in, and your job is essentially to put together a coherent picture. You have a lot of incomplete information, and your job is to put it all together and then to feed it to the tactical action officer to the best of your ability. And sometimes it's incomplete information, or to the CO, and sometimes you get it wrong because when you're a lieutenant or lieutenant junior grade, you're not always as proficient as you are when you're senior. One of the most important interactions there is the assistant N2. I've talked about my counterpart on the carrier was the N2. His assistant was a lieutenant commander, and the assistant N2 is kind of the unofficial big brother in subplot, who kind of keeps things under control there, and is kind of the big brother to make sure that stupid things don't happen.
Yeah.
And we had a good one there. So yeah, he's kind of the unofficial mentor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So people tend to focus on strikes, but there's obviously a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, the subplot has a very important job and doesn't get seen by most of the people in the carrier because of the classification. It's an SCI space, as sensitive compartmented information is a access that 90% of the people in the Navy don't have. And so the tactical action officers all have it, and so they would come in prior to their watch standing, and they'd come in and get a brief and get it. The tactical action officers are the people who sit in combat detection center. Those are the folks you see with the big screens and in the dark rooms in all the Navy movies. Yeah, they're the ones sitting back there going, smoking the cigarettes and saying your ego's written, check your
A check you can't cash.
Whatever. Yeah.
Your ass can't cash.
Yeah. So,
I've seen that one.
yeah. Although that guy was actually the Air Wing commander, but we won't go there. I don't know what he was doing as TAO.
So this sounds like a lot of moving parts.
It is. An aircraft carrier, I've heard, is the most complex organism known to mankind. And when you consider, let's just bring it out for a minute, just at the aircraft carrier itself, they serve, 18,000 meals a day.
Wow.
Think of the laundry.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah.
Think of the karaoke nights.
Yeah.
It really is a complex organism, and it's a 24-hour operation, 7 days a week, and it's really a remarkable thing. You fly in almost every day.
Yeah.
And it's hard work. It's a lot of fun, but right now those guys on Abraham Lincoln, they're dealing with some serious stuff. They're dealing with some serious stuff. Right now, it's all that training is being put to use. Whether they use it or not, their planning cycle is for real.
Yeah.
It's not in the exercise stage anymore. Their planning is for real.
I've heard you talk about the 4 questions. Can you educate me on what those are?
Sure. Again, it's what do I know? What do I think? Who needs to know? And have I told them? And that's a question. That's what we taught our intel guys every step along the way. And that's good for any intel guy, and it's really good for anybody in Civic, especially in a situation like this. And that's what Civic is really all about.
So when we see someone like the a aircraft carrier like the USS Abraham Lincoln, kind of preparing or conducting operations, what are we seeing there?
Well, they're really preparing to see what comes next, for what comes next, or what might come next. And again, that's what Civic is really all about again.
All right, Howard, I had a few general aircraft carrier questions for someone who's actually spent, I think, 3 tours on aircraft carriers before.
Sure. Is this like a trivia?
This is a trivia. It's going to be, you're going to ask you got to answer quickly. Okay.
All right. Yellow.
Yeah. Funny enough, that is one of them. Why does the deck crew wear color-coded jerseys?
That's to differentiate their job descriptions. In other words, a safety officer would typically wear white. I believe it's the ordnance men wear red. The grapes are the refuelers, and so on.
All right. So it makes it easy for me to tell if I'm in need of someone to help me with weapons. I know I'm looking for the guy that's in that color, for example.
That's correct.
Okay. We got these things are floating cities. U.S. aircraft carrier typically has 4,500 to 5,000 people on board, more than many small towns. It has its own post office, hospital, gym, jail, TV station, and Starbucks level.
Never been into jail.
Okay.
No Starbucks.
No Starbucks.
Although they do serve Starbucks coffee.
All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. I've got a fact here. Can you tell me how fast planes can go from 0 to 165 miles an hour on to takeoff?
Very quickly, within about 150 yards, I think.
Wow.
I mean, I have catted off the waist cat of an aircraft carrier before, and it's like nothing you've ever experienced.
Wow. Yeah.
It's wild, and then trapping on one, you go just the opposite.
Mm-hmm. You've got a big safety net around the whole perimeter of these things at the top.
Wow. No, when you trap on an aircraft carrier, you have 4 wires. And they're near the stern of the ship. And your friendly pilot crashes into into the deck. He doesn't land. He doesn't flare like an Air Force pilot with their long runways. No, he's aiming to the middle of those 4 wires, crashing it as fast as he goes.
Yeah.
And as he hits the deck, he pushes the throttle as far forward as he can to accelerate. You know why? Because if he doesn't catch those 4 wires,
want to go dropping off the end.
He wants to accelerate as quickly as he can. But if he does catch one of those wires, then they'll catch him even with the acceleration.
Wow. Yeah. So. Aircraft carriers can make their own fresh water?
Yes, they can.
Yeah, so they're self-sufficient, and that's that point. They've got a desalinization plant on board.
Yes, and they have the worst milk ever.
Okay, they got their own cow back there too.
Yeah, no, they have what they call I forget the name of the milk, but it was like this dehydrated milk, and they put water.
It's the evaporated milk or whatever. Okay,
that's the worst.
Yep. Nuclear powered carriers don't need to refuel for decades.
That's true.
That's amazing. So it's saying that the information I received is 20, 25 years these things can run, and really the fuel is consumed by the aircraft. That's the only thing that you're worried about fueling.
Pretty much. There's a couple other auxiliary things, but yeah.
Wow.
That's about it.
Yep. Let's see. An aircraft carrier is never alone. It's got a big crew of support vehicles and whatnot.
Unless we're doing flight ops or something like that. But I guess even then we usually have an escort. There's almost always what they call a plane guard, which means a ship behind you in case somebody crashes or something like that. We usually have somebody behind us to keep us company.
Okay. Are those guys, are they ever coming on board? And if so, how do you even get on board in the middle of a sea? How do you get on an aircraft?
There is a way to do that.
Yeah.
We rarely do it. Of course, the easiest way is by helicopter. We
Yep.
lowered. And I've actually been lowered onto a cruiser before. That was fun. That was interesting.
Yeah.
I probably shouldn't tell my commanding officer. Captain Cole, never happened. Admiral Cole, excuse me. I was actually lowered onto USS Vincennes once. We wanted the ball caps. Anyway, that's when I was a young, impressionable ensign and didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But that was from...
Still have the ball cap to pull out?
I don't have the ball cap. I was with HS4. That was my squadron at the time.
Uh-huh.
And anyway, great sea stories from that tour. But you can actually pull alongside, and there's what they call, I think it's called a bosun seat, and they can stretch a wire between the ships. And what they do is they take like a rifle, and they shoot what it looks like a big tennis ball attached to a string, and then they shoot that across, and they catch it on the other deck, and they pull it, and then it goes to the string is attached to like a rope, and then the rope is attached to a wire, and then along the wire you can attach a chair, and then the poor sucker on the other side sits in the chair on these choppy seas. And I would never do that. You could never pay me.
Wow.
I'll take the helicopter option for $1,000, Alex.
Jeez, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that was a long way of saying yes. There's a way to do it.
Yep. The U.S. Navy maintains the largest fleet in the world. What other navies have aircraft carriers?
I don't know that. Oh, the largest aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Fleet. Yes, we do. Although China is catching up.
Okay. So are there other? So U.S. and China both have invested in aircraft carriers. Are there other navies that have these things now?
Great Britain is now investing again in aircraft carriers. Russia kind of has aircraft carriers, such as they are. I think that's it.
They buy the decommissioned ones out of the
San
Diego
they
Harbor?
started building them, and then God bless the Russian Navy. I'll just say that.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Russia. If you're in Russia listening to this, you're a great land force.
Don't stick to the land, not the water. Yeah. I had a few other cool factoids here. An aircraft carrier is 4.5 acres of diplomacy.
4.5 acres of sovereign U.S. territory anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Mister.
Yeah.
90,000 tons of whoop ass.
Yeah. I like it. Cool. Let's see. If you see a carrier, it's already been watching you, meaning it's got all these systems on board that by the time you even see this massive thing, it's already been able to see you for miles.
Well, I don't think that the submarines would agree with this. You know what the submarines called? Carriers?
Sitting ducks?
Targets?
Targets, yeah. Okay, all right.
Yeah. We're big and loud. And
Is this thing loud as all get out when it's underway? Yeah. Yeah, making a lot of noise.
When a submarine, I'm sure a submarine could probably hear us for hundreds of miles.
Wow. Oh, man. Okay, interesting. Very cool. Well, hey, this has been great. Any other factoids you want to give us on submarines, having spent so much time on them?
On submarines or carriers?
I'm sorry, carriers. Any other factoids you want to give us on carriers since you've spent so much time on them?
I've spent a lot more time on carriers than submarines. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I would just say, I just want to say about the sailors on them.
Yeah.
And that is the real differentiator between the U.S. Navy and any other Navy that I've ever come across is really the U.S. Navy sailor. And the fact that we train our people to become leaders from E1 on up. And the fact that I talked about these targeteers who can do their job right out of high school, and do it well, and then become leaders, really speaks to our culture.
Do they set it up as such that it's there's a really good plan for growth, I guess? You feel like you've got a lot of opportunity when you join the Navy, even as a young enlisted man?
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, one of the things I'm really proud of is, of the sailors that I led on the USS Theodore Roosevelt. As the officers, I think at least one of them's a captain right now. A couple of them are certainly heading that way if they're not already. I know that one of the enlisted people I know became an officer, and I think she's now a lieutenant commander.
Wow.
The senior chief who worked for me retired as a force master chief. We've got, and that's very high. I mean, she was the commissioning master chief of USS George W. Bush, which says something. Command master chief, I should say. We've had several of the enlisted people become chief or higher.
Wow.
And so they've really grown and become amazing sailors and leaders in their own right. That speaks not only to my leadership, but mostly to the leadership of the people between me and them.
Sure.
And that just, I was surrounded by good people.
Yep.
And they propped me up.
Yeah. One last question. Is it easy? Do you have to duck when you go through any doorways on an aircraft carrier?
I ended up with so many scars in so many places.
And there's no soft surface up there, right?
No,
yeah. Okay.
Nothing.
Everything's just cold steel.
Oh, cold steel and unforgiving steel.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, this has been great. I really enjoyed getting to learn about aircraft carriers from someone who spent so much time on them. Thank you. So thanks for tuning in to this episode, Threat and Theory. As always, give us some more ideas and topics, and we'd love to tackle them. Anything geopolitical and U.S. military. We've got someone who's spent a lot of time in that space that is ready to answer your questions. Send them on in. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.